Hello everybody, welcome to the latest episode of Flat Out. Joey is away this week and I'm delighted to be back alongside Jack Nicol. Once again, Jack, very privileged to be back on Flat Out and I hope you're happy to have me back.
Yeah, it's good to have you back, yeah. Joey's in Germany, so we had to fill in for a super sub and there was only one candidate, obviously. Yeah, I hope you're ready. It's the big one. It's baptism of fire, really, for the new season.
Indeed, yeah. 2 days of classic action at Newmarket, both the 2,000 and 1,000 guineas, and of course a cracking undercard on both days as well, with some Goodwood action to enjoy as well. And Jack, the sun's coming out. It's good to see it back, isn't it?
It is, yes. It's quite warm in this office, so yeah, a little bit of sweat already, isn't it? But yeah, it's obviously we've got Friday racing at Newmarket as well. Bumper 9 race card on Saturdays. Plenty of action to get stuck into over the next week or so.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Let's talk horses to follow as well before we start on the actual action this weekend, because I know you've got some updates for us.
Yeah, so Joey and I were both keen on Can Do No More, but yeah, he put that up last episode. Julie won in great style. The race kind of fell apart a bit, horses in the stalls and whatnot, but he couldn't have done any better than what he did, and yeah, he's really impressive and a horse to keep going with. And then horse that I put up, Al-Makam, won quite impressively today. He was well positioned in the track. It was a slowly run race, but I like the way that he did go on again in the end, and I think he's a horse that's going to get better over further. So the fact that he could sprint away from probably quicker rivals was quite impressive. And yeah, he's definitely a horse to keep on side of. Just his second start, and I think he's got a lot more improvement to come. It's
like when a jockey gets a winner early in the week at a big festival. You've kind of got that winner out of the way. The relief is gone.
It is, yeah. Good. It's been quite a slow start to me for the season. Al-Makam today was really the first one I've kind of got stuck into. A bit of after time in there, but the viewers would have known how sweet I was when I first put him up in the first episode. And yeah, really do like him, and I think he's a cool to keep on side going forward.
For sure. My horse to follow, which I haven't put forward yet, of course, is Ghostwriter,
yes.
Which has been the mirth of some people I've talked to about, but at the same time, he is unbeaten. Of course, he goes in the 2,000 guineas. We'll come to that a little bit later in the show, but I do think he's got plenty of potential to come this season, whether it be over a mile. I'm convinced he's going to stay further. I know that some people disagree, including yourself, given the sire, but there is plenty of stamina in the dam side of the pedigree.
It's not so much staying 10 furlongs, it's this Derby line that you keep peddling to me, and I just cannot have him in the Derby. We'll get on to him probably in a bit more depth later. I don't want to get too invested in him yet, because his time will come, I'm sure, in this episode. But yeah, probably straight into the 2,000 guineas and the 1,000 guineas. That's probably what everyone's tuning in for. Obviously, it's the first classics of the season.
Yeah, it certainly is. Let's start with the 2,000. And the hot favourites, unsurprisingly, is City of Troy. Unbeaten so far in his career. Went into everybody's notebooks when he won so easily on the Newmarket July course last season. And then, of course, he proved himself on the Rowley Mile when winning the Dewhurst very nicely too. He looks an absolute superstar in the making. Of course, Jack, it depends how he's trained on, but the vibes are good.
The vibes are very good, yeah. And it's probably a vote of confidence that, I mean, he's got a few, of course, Henry Longfellow could be an absolute monster. Well, I think he is as well. So he's got plenty of bullets to fire. The fact that they're confident enough, like the 1,000 guineas, to have one runner in the race, I think that speaks volumes. And I think and hope City of Troy will be a superstar. Like, we've had, obviously, Frankel see the stars. I really hope this season he'll prove to be in that same bracket.
Yeah, and coming to the race without a prep run, but that is the usual, isn't it, with Aidan O'Brien's contenders in this race, the top ones at least.
It is, yeah. I think all his 2,000 guineas winners have came their first time up, so this is the tried and tested route for, you know, the maestro. Really good piece I was reading, where I got that stat from was Andy Stevens. You'll find that on the Racing TV website. He goes through the race in great depth, and that was probably one of my first port of calls for studying up. You'll get lots of good bits in there, and yeah, City of Troy, tried and tested route coming there. There's no point running him in trial. We know how good he is, isn't there? And I mean, you're only going to damage your chances, I think, unless, I mean, look, could be a big stuffy horse, so maybe he would need a prep, but yeah, go straight there and see what happens there.
I mean, just lastly on him, in terms of visual impression last year, he couldn't have made more of one. I mean, how impressed were you generally by him?
Well, that win at Newmarket the first time was spectacular, wasn't it? And then again in the Dewhurst, made his own running, softer ground, and I think he was even more impressive there, to be fair. He was just spectacular. The impression I got there, though, was that's not your 2,000 guineas winner. I thought that's a Derby horse right there. So like, it's not even a question for me, does he stay a mile? I think a mile and a half is going to be his bag, at least 10, justify. That's probably one concern is how can you get him beat? It's not so much the reappearance I would be worried about, 200 days off, not a worry to me. It's the slow start that Justify's had. Aidan hasn't exactly been in top form, has he? That's probably the angle you could be looking at, 4 to 6. I think he's going to be the shortest priced Guineas favourite since Air Force Blue.
Mm-hmm. Who, of course, disappointed.
Very similar profile, obviously. He's still somewhere up there on the Rolly Mile. Do you know what I mean? He went missing on the day. And, no, so that I guess could be construed as a negative. Justify, I think, is going to be a top selling in time. And yeah, it's no doubt he will train on. And as you just touched on before, the vibes have been very good, haven't they? So.
They have, but they were pretty good about Air Force Blue as well. So
that's very true, yeah.
And he didn't train on, so remains to be seen. But well, he did to an extent. But.
No, he didn't. But he was by Warfront.
Oh, very different.
Yeah, very different, I think.
Perhaps City of Troy's biggest danger could come from Brazilian, because we talk about vibes. Well, Richard Hannon couldn't be more confident about this horse. Of course, we last saw winning in France at the back end of last season. Again, a very impressive performance, and plaudits from the camp. I mean, they're really excited about this one.
He likes to use that line, doesn't he? And to be fair, I actually believe him this time. I think they do think he probably is the best of train, which is some statement. They've had the likes of Barney Roy,
Toronado,
like
Cliffs,
like he knows what a Guineas horse is. He's been absolutely purring about this one. I'd be worried about the ground. It's currently good to soft. It will have been a drying day today in Newmarket. I think there's a bit of showers, a bit of 15, 16 degrees with a breeze as well. That Newmarket will dry out very quickly. So I could probably see it being on the quicker side of good, depending on how much they get in terms of rain. It has been a little unsettled. It's sort of changing every day. They could get some significant rainfall sort of Saturday. But it just sticks in my head about how disappointing he was at Doncaster. I know the ground's going to be nowhere near as soft as that, but when you get these top horses, they can't just go through anything, can't they? So that's just a little sticking point for me. What do you think?
Well, actually, I'm looking forward to hopefully what will be a decent ground Guineas after last year, with Chaldean obviously winning in the mud. And I thought, even though it was a great performance from him, it was a disappointing race in the end, I thought.
It was, yeah.
But hopefully we'll get a race where everyone really is able to show their true colours, and we can see who's best on the afternoon. Might help potentially the horses so far we've only seen on the all-weather. There are a couple with very decent chances in this year, including, of course, Notable Speech, but also Night Raider too. Yeah,
exactly. And I guess the question marks for them, getting straight into the negatives, is can they transfer that form to the turf? That's a big question mark. I think of the two, I would much prefer Night Raider, to be honest. I've been really impressed with him. I mean, it's hard not to be the manner he's won it. I mean, look, Notable Speech has been very impressive as well, hasn't he? But it's just some little bit of X factor about this Night Raider. And Carl Burke as well has been very, very bullish about his chances. You've just come back from a TRL. You've kind of heard whispers that he's the talk of Yorkshire. They're all very confident with this Night Raider. We saw him last week. He worked with Flight Plan. He's had a bit of a sighter at the track. He seemed absolutely fine in the dip and whatnot. So, yeah, look, he'll have been working at home on the grass as well. That wouldn't be too much of a worry, nor would it be for Notable Speech. I mean, the facilities they'll have in Newmarket, Godolphin, it's not negative. I think of the two, though, I probably would be erring more to the side of Night Raider.
Okay, I know that people always say kind of don't read too much into racecourse gallops.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, I do think a racecourse gallop on the Rolly Mile is slightly different because, of course, you have got the undulations and there's that dip as well. And I did think that Night Raider was absolutely fine on it. I know that they'll go faster and it'll be more of a test, but at the same time, I thought it was encouraging enough.
Well, that kind of links in Al Yunabi, who we saw on. Everything was kind of geared towards him going away from Giraffe, who I mentioned was probably a horse to follow. He's entered up again this weekend, but Al Yunabi, with his running style as well, I feel like you'd want to be kind of, as we saw at the Craven meeting, you want to be on the pace, don't you? And just his running style, I wonder if they might ride him a bit more aggressively here. Okay.
One thing about him is that a 203-day break to defy wouldn't be an issue because Owen Burrows is superb at priming horses off long breaks, and of course he's going to be trying to do that with Ali Narbi.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, what he did with Hookham was brilliant as well. I think it's probably time to get on to Ghost Rider, is it?
I was waiting for you to say that. Yeah, 3 out of 3 so far, obviously winning the Royal Lodge last season. I've been watching that race over and over again in the lead up to this. And look, he couldn't have been more impressive in my book. The racing form, in terms of the form of the race, hasn't worked out massively at the moment. But at the same time, I thought he looked a little bit green still. When he's stretching out through the dip, I thought there was a little bit of learning still to be done from him. And again, I know that the vibes are strong about most of these horses, but Clive Cox, he's the apple of Clive Cox's eye. He thinks he's a proper horse in the making. I personally think that the further they go, the better. So over a mile or 2, mile 4, it'll suit him even more. But the Guineas is very much his prime target. He's done nothing wrong so far. He'll be primed and ready to go. And I don't really see many things wrong with him. And I think 16 to 1 is a fair enough price about him each way, to be honest.
Would you prefer quicker ground? Obviously, it was quick. I agree with the fact that he was impressive the last time we saw him. I don't think it was a deep race, but I think it definitely helped that quick round he really bounced off it, didn't he? Would it be a concern if it came up good to soft?
I think he definitely, we know he'd like good to firm ground. We know that, don't we? We don't really know how he'd handle good to soft. At the same time, I think more confidence would be derived if the ground was quicker. I do think it probably, I know we talked about the weather and the current going conditions. I'd be surprised if it wasn't a good or better 2,000 guineas. And with that in mind, I think he'll be fine.
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, I mean, solid enough claims.
Well, solid enough claims. Not particularly solid case made, but solid claims enough anyway. And what about the rest of the runners then, Jack? Because we've got Hartim in there at 33, so he was a very impressive winner of the Craven. He
was, yeah. Again, I think he was the beneficiary of a track bias. He could be a pace angle here. We're recording here on Tuesday evening. Obviously, declarations on Thursday. It would be great to know the stalls now. They have sort of come down the middle of the track. I think there's only going to be 10, 11 runners. So I don't think it's going to matter, to be fair, low draw, high draw in this race. I do think there'll be quite a bit of pace on. I think Hartim could contribute to that. I don't think he's anywhere good enough to win this. The example is Rosallion was shortened up on the back of Hartim winning, and which is ludicrous really, but it shows you the confidence they have by him. So for me, Hartim's not good enough. I think he'll be swallowed up. Maybe if he is, he'll certainly be prominent, but no, not good enough for me. Task Force is an interesting one, certainly bred for the job. Yeah, and he didn't do much wrong, did he, last season either? So, no, I mean, there's plenty to like. I mean, I'd say the trip is a slight question mark, but at the same time, Rafe Beckett knows his onions, doesn't he? So he wouldn't be just throwing him in there. I certainly wouldn't be worried about the trip for me. Special duty, she did win the Guineas. Obviously, Frankel well, we know, yeah. So look, he kind of was limited to running in 6 furlong races. Certainly wouldn't be worried about him. I think he's quite an interesting one at the bigger prices. Ultimately, I don't think he's quite good enough. And I wouldn't be having him. Is there anything else sort of? Well, I think we should give a mention to 10 Bob Tony, just because he won that conditions race on. I know it was a much weaker contest than the Guineas on Saturday. Ed Walker and a big ride too for Safi Osborne, of course, has been flying recently with that becoming that first woman to win a race in Meydan. And since she's come back, she's been in great form too. So I'd love to see a good run from 10 Bob Tony. Yeah, Safi's first ride in the Classic as well. My worry with 10 Bob Tony, and I was obviously jesting with viewers and with Joey last week when I said, he's this big flashy chestnut with lots of white on him. He's certainly obviously a very good horse, but I think he really needs a bit of dig and a bit of ease underfoot. So I don't think the ground will be soft enough for him. Be interesting maybe going to France or something. The connections really obviously rate him, and fair play to them for putting him in that race last time. He justified them going there, but I think this is a step too far. Okay, I think it might be time for a summary then, Jack. 1, 2, 3 on the 2,000 guineas. What are you going for? Well, I think and hope that you've tried. It's very boring. I know nobody wants me to put up the 4-6 favourite, but I think we could have the next superstar on our hands. I was deliberating on whether to go on Saturday, but I think it's a question of I would be kicking myself if I didn't go to Newmarket and he went and won by 5-10 lengths or something. So no, I'm going purely for this horse on Saturday, and I hope City of Troy wins. In second, I really do like Night Raider. I think it's a cliche, he could still be anything, but every time I've looked at him, I've been impressed, just about the way he does things. And Danny Tudd, hope it would be a first Classic win for him. I really hope he has a good weekend. We'll get a bit more on him later. And to fill out the places, on the basis that it is going to be quicker, I mean, it's hard again to really knock Rosalien out the places for me. So yeah, it would be City of Troy, Knight Raider and Rosalien.
Okay, a very strong 3, I would say. I'm going to go with City of Troy too. I just can't go against him, just like you, really.
Sure.
On what we saw last year and the potential still to come, of course, and the fact that he's trained by the maestro Aidan O'Brien. So he's my number 1. I've got to put Ghostwriter in at number 2. He's my horse to follow for the season.
You have to at this
I
point.
have to, yeah. But I do think he's got a very good chance. So he's in at number 2. And number 3, I'm actually going to go Notable Speech.
Okay.
If he handles the turf, I think he's extremely good. I mean, the sectionals that he produced at Kempton last time, the way that he went from last to first, and albeit a weaker race, you don't really see that on the weather at Kempton in the flashy manner that he did it.
I think Valvano's a very good horse that he beat as well, and he didn't have dominate.
He destroyed him, didn't
yeah,
he?
he did.
Yeah.
So
I think he's a solid third. So that'd be my third for that.
fair enough.
Okay.
We're going to hear from Joey. Obviously, he's in Germany. He's tuning in. I think he's in front of the Brandenburg Gate. He's going to give his 1, 2, 3 now.
2,000 guineas week, and oh my god, am I excited. But I'm taking a few days off to go and visit Berlin beforehand, so I'm leaving you in the capable hands of Tom and Jack this week. A couple of thoughts on the races for me. I think in the 2,000 guineas, City of Troy is going to be very, very hard to beat. I really hope we see something special when he rolls on to Epsom and steps up in trip and does something really special this year, because I think it's been a long time maybe since we've seen a horse as talented as him. So he's one I'm very excited to see, of course. But against him, I think I may play a couple each way. Inner Sharon, I think, has been impressive in 2 starts. He's got form on the Rolling Mile that's been frank with Bellham Houston winning the Derby trial the other day. So I think his run style is going to suit us well. He's going to be ridden fairly prominently. So yeah, I would say Inner Sharon's got a chance of running well, and this race, it being the last 2-year-old race of the season, as they always say, there's always a chance for a little shock one to sneak into the places. The other one I quite like is Task Force. I think Task Force, being by Frankel, out of a French 1,000 guineas winner, he has a lot of things in his favour, and I'm going to be prioritising that Van Dijk form. I think outside of City of Troy form, Van Dijk is the next best horse to be following and looking a horse in behind. Task Force will have to step up in trip from 6 furlongs to a mile, but given the pedigree, I think that's going to really suit him. So I'll be excited to see how he goes. He'll be one I will be wanting to keep on side. In a similar vein, for the Fillies Classic on the Sunday, I'll be looking at Ramatuelle. She was only beaten by basically a neck by Van Dijk last year, and she's had a little tune-up this year. She clearly wasn't the day for her. It's just getting ready for the big day on Sunday. So she's another one at 10 to 1 each way that I think has a real chance of running really, really well. Best of luck, whatever you're backing the weekend, and I will see you next week. I'll hand you back to Jack and Tom.
Great to hear from Joey. He's with us in spirit. Now we're going to move on to Sunday, and the feature event is, of course, the 1,000 guineas, and a more open event, I think it's fair to say, than the 2,000, at least in terms of the market.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a lot more competitive, and I think from a betting point of view, obviously, this is going to be the race to kind of get stuck in and try and find a bit of, well, certainly a nicer price of a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. The moment Fallen Angel is the favourite. You can understand why. Because she's very straightforward. What she did at the back end of last year was particularly impressive. And again, as you said earlier, a little bit like Knight Raider, the vibes coming out of Yorkshire about this filly are very strong indeed from Carl Burke.
They are, yes, and she did very little wrong last year. I think obviously Sandown was only blot, annoyingly beaten by Shawari, who was my great white hope of the winter, kept me warm, and then a month or so ago she gets ruled out. Tried to bring in Content as the big substitute, and Aidan's using her to substitute for Opera Singer and the French Guinea. So this race has been a bit of a nightmare for me, certainly from an anti-post angle. I still think there's plenty of interest in terms of a betting point of view. We'll get on to my selection a little bit later. But yeah, Fallen Angel, only kind of blot was that race at Sandown. So impressive last time in the Moigler as well, wasn't she? And there's no doubt about her getting the trip. And yeah, very, very solid claims.
She hit the line so hard, didn't she, in the Moigler
yeah.
Stud Stakes? I mean, it was amazing, really, the way she quickened and then quickened again at the end of the contest.
Yeah, and she's another that has had experience on the track. She worked with Lethal Levi, as we saw last week. He was kind of leaning into her. It was a really good bit of work. Obviously, she's coming here first time up, so she needed a good bit of work. As we saw last week, she had a real good swinger there with Lethal Levi. He was kind of leaning into her on the dip, but she kind of went away. I was impressed with what she did there, and I'm certain she'll be absolutely primed for this.
Would the last grey to won the 1,000 Guineas be Sky Lantern? Would that be correct?
I can't think of any since then. Yeah, you put me on the spot, but no, I think that is right. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think she probably is.
Yes.
Let's talk about Ylang for the Aidan O'Brien team. And of course, he came out this week and has said that she's the only representative in the race, just like City of Troy in the 2,000 guineas, and that speaks for itself.
Yeah, it's very much a vote of confidence there. I'm not so warm on her. I just, my niggling thought in the back of my head with this filly is I think she's more of an Oaks filly. And I just think she might find one or two too speedy for her here. And that would just be my little worry here. Again, she is Aidan's only runner. It's hard really, therefore, to make a case against her, is there? So they obviously think she's flying at home for her to be the sole runner from the stable.
Yeah, I just remember the Fillies Mile going into that race last season. I couldn't have fancied her less.
Yeah.
And of course, she proved me wrong, but at the same time, I can't kind of get that out of my head.
Yes.
And I do think she is vulnerable and beatable if something is up against her of significant talent. And of course, we could easily get that in this race. Go on.
Well, she just kind of bombed out there, didn't she, when Fallen Angel won. Then at Newmarket, she was completely outpaced. I know they went a ferocious gallop over 7 furlongs, and then came back to form with a vengeance. It was something I did mention with the Aidan O'Brien fillies, that they do have kind of a patchy record at 2, so maybe I'm thinking too much into this. She's clearly very good. She's a Group 1 winner already. Frankel. Look, it's hard really to pick holes in her when you look at the bigger picture. And obviously, she was the one who shortened up in the immediate aftermath of the opera singer news, which tells you at the time that clearly she has been the one in the spring shown a lot more than the others.
Yeah, I think she is difficult to knock. I also think Dance Sequence is fairly difficult to knock, albeit she did get beaten last time by another one in the race, of course, Nell Gwyn. That's Pretty Crystal. I think the market and generally everyone expects Dance Sequence to reverse that form. Are you in agreement with that?
No, I'm not, actually. Okay. Now, this is one horse that I'll put my head on the block, and I just can't have her at all. I don't see any reason why Pretty Crystal can't confirm that form. I really like the way Richard Fahey's filly pulled out more on that half furlong. I know Dance Sequence had to kind of come around her, but if you look at it again, we'll see here at Newmarket, at the half furlong pull, she really does stick her neck out towards the line, and I really like that about her. Pretty Baby was tough as teak. She used to be a William Haggis filly, and you actually have a bit of an update from Richard Fahey, and I'll not say it for you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to go and visit him earlier in the week, actually, and he's confident about Pretty Crystal. He thinks there's going to be no problem with her staying the mile. Apparently she's a very relaxed filly, got a lovely temperament. We saw that in the Nell Gwyn. She's also very balanced, handled the dip absolutely fine too. So they're quite confident. They're definitely confident she'll stay the trip.
Yep.
She's quite a small filly, quite diminutive, so that would be a slight concern, I think, against some of the hoitier, toitier fillies in this race. At the same time, though, they do think she's overpriced, and I can understand that because, of course, she has got that winning form. And also, what they did say as well is that she had plenty of excuses last year. They were very disappointed she couldn't win a group race at 2. Okay. But he said they were trainer excuses. But to be fair, you can make excuse for plenty of those runs. So the fact that she came back with a victory, I think, is a very promising omen.
It did seem like they didn't exactly fancy her. It was a bit of a surprise, wasn't it? Hence why my disappointment that Dance Sequence, if she should have been winning that, and I can't believe she's around 4 to 1, 5 to 1 for me when you've got Pretty Crystal at 14s. I'd be very, very much against Dance Sequence.
Okay, let's talk about La Fille Française, and that is Ramatuelle, who of course has already got some very good form to her name. She
does, yeah. She's one that I guess the big question mark is the trip. Again, City of Troy justify, this filly justify. I don't have any doubts. I think he won up to 1.5 miles. My American form isn't great. He definitely won up to, I think he did. Yeah,
I think it was 1.5 miles.
Yeah, so look, the dam definitely won up to around in an extended 7. There wouldn't be any doubts in my mind about the trip. It is a small question mark, but I think she's gonna, she will stay out the trip. Again, I think this is an angle that's often underplayed. I know the French horses, the Craven Meeting, didn't perform for whatever reason, different trainer of course, so it doesn't really matter, but I think she's a bigger price than she should be actually at 10 to 1. I know she was beaten in her prep. I don't think there was too much wrong with that. Heavy ground. You only have to go and look at her 2-year-old form last year behind Van Dijk in front of River Tiber. I mean, that's top class form for me. Again, that was over 6. She's obviously very speedy, but that short neck defeat to Van Dijk, I mean, as I say, that's top class form. I actually think it's the best piece of form in the race. That pre-morning form, I don't think that's a remarkable statement.
It was
to say
ridiculously
that.
strong contest, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And she's come back, as I say, she's been beaten second. Obviously, a little bit of a setback. You'd like to see them go and win, but I think that was very much a prep going on to this race. And at 10-1, I think she's a really solid each way, and she would actually be my idea of the winner at this stage.
Okay.
Certainly in terms of, I just think she should be near enough 5 or 6 to 1. You can get general 10s here, can't you? A standout 10s, but around about the 8, 9 to 1 mark at the moment. If you can get the 10s, what we're looking at just here, I'll be all over that, to be fair.
I'm not a jockey basher in any way. I never have been. But one thing that I would say is a potential negative is Aurélien Lemaitre in the saddle. And I don't mean that. He does very, very well in France. We all know that.
Yeah.
The one ride that sticks out in my head was Blue Rose Sen at Goodwood.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's taking on Sheen Murphy, Ryan Moore, William Buick, Danny Tutterhook, etc., in this race, who all know Newmarket's undulations so well. I don't know if how many rides he's had at the track, if any, but at the same time, that experience definitely helps, and the fact he hasn't got any would be a worry.
A small worry, but look, he's a very good jockey.
He is. In France, he's a great jockey.
And I don't think riding down the centre of the track at Newmarket on a filly in the sort of middle of the pack, again, I think there'll be 12 or 13 runners here. It's not going to be a big field. It'd be very hard to find a bit of trouble. It's a fair enough point, but no, I wouldn't give too much credence to that. I think it'd be absolutely fine on the straight track at Newmarket.
Okay, let's move on to talk about See the 5. He reminds me a little bit of Alcohol Free, I have to say, of the Andrew Balding team. Sheen Murphy riding for owner Jeff Smith, those famous colours, of course, and has the most beautiful pedigree, isn't she? Daughter of See the Stars and Arabian Queen, who, of course, is very smart in her own right.
Now, this is one filly, again, I can't have at all.
Okay.
I don't like the way her last 2 starts, she's had only 3 starts, but her last 2 starts in general, she hung to her left under pressure. Tells me she's not quite up to this kind of level. She's a Group 2 filly. I'm not sure she's a top notcher. Just for me, I just can't have her at all. Look, Aidan O'Brien, Andrew Balding has won 2 of the last 4 2,000 guineas, hasn't he? Kamiko and Chaldean last week, of course. So he knows the time of day and getting them ready, of course. Pedigree, can't knock it. I just don't like her attitude. And she just wouldn't be one for me. I couldn't see her here.
I think it's very fair to say that she will need to have improved.
Yes.
Because, of course, she has work to do with the Yalang as well.
She does, yeah.
So if she's going to win this, there will need to be significant headway.
Yeah, I just cannot see her reversing that form.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. And I think even that form might not be good enough in the first place anyway to win the Guineas. We talked about Pretty Crystal. One that I did want to mention in notable detail, really, is Cinderella's Dream for the Godolphin team. Looks like being the second string. Of course, William Buick will dance sequence. Mikhail Barcelona is on Cinderella's Dream. But the way that she won that Jumeirah 1,000 guineas in Meydan was the most extraordinary thing. William Buick's saddle slipped. If you haven't seen the race, please do go back and watch it.
Well, we can
show it now, And it was just remarkable, wasn't it?
Well, I can see why maybe Williams chose to ride dance sequence, because there's probably not much of his manhood left after this ride. Because, I mean, it was remarkable. The fact she could still win in this style was amazing, really. And as a little angle, of course, last year's winner of this race, Morge, different trainer, Saeed Boutroura, but same owners, went on to win here, obviously having that, productive spell, warm weather, obviously over in the Middle East. I wouldn't be surprised if she hasn't come over in the last 2-3 weeks herself, kind of running off the plane as Morge did last year. Obviously her and Tahira won by 7-8 lengths. The pair of them come clear, didn't they? So that certainly was beneficial to her. And they've obviously trodden the same path. Ultimately, I don't think she's quite good enough. And the fact that William does get on dance sequence is a bit of a marker as well, isn't it? Yeah,
and she's got plenty of work to do on official ratings. That said, we have no idea how good she is yet.
No, exactly, and that's it. I think at a larger price, I certainly wouldn't put off her supporters. Ultimately, I just don't think she's quite good enough.
And I think you feel the same about Porta Fortuna, who had that very, very good form as a 2-year-old. The trip is a huge worry about her. If she gets it, I think she's got a good chance on quick ground, but it's a big question mark.
Yeah, as you said there, you kind of encapsulated in one. The trip, I know she did come second in the Breeders' Cup. Again, she just bounced off the quick round there, and obviously on a turn track. This is a much different test. Could well be on the easier side of good. My kind of bigger worry, I think, out of all the kind of horses, I just worry if she's trained on. I wouldn't be certain about that for her. She wasn't the biggest filly, quite long, wasn't she? And for me, no, she didn't win a great Cheveley Park.
It was poor race.
It wasn't. Obviously, Relief Rally came out earlier in that week. She would have probably been a moral for me. Everyone knows how big a fan I was of her. And yeah, so it's hard to kind of have any confidence in her. I wouldn't be a fan.
Okay, Donica O'Brien has booked Tom Marquand, which obviously is an eye-catching jockey booking for Porta Fortuna.
Yeah.
Star Style, the owners were cock-a-hoop when she absolutely bolted up on her debut. I'd be concerned that just the one run in what was just a pretty weak fillies maiden would be good enough to win a Guineas. She'll need to improve a lot on that.
She will, absolutely. Fair enough to connections. I mean, this is kind of the dream. You've won your one race. The bubble's still intact.
Absolutely.
Why not have a go? You know, I mean, fillies have come on like that. She didn't have a run at 2. That would be a little bit of a negative. So, yeah, I can't see her being in the 3, to be fair.
Okay, thoughts about El Marca, daughter of Kingman, of course, who was so, I suppose the word's unlucky in his 2,000 Guineas all those years ago.
Absolutely. I mean, how he didn't win that race, we'll
It's
never
astonishing,
know.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
The best miler of his generation and plenty of other generations.
I mean, what a race that was as well. But
something else.
it was so messy that they did break into the groups, didn't they? But yeah, I really do like this filly. Not good enough to win a Guineas, but certainly maybe going on towards Royal Ascot, perhaps. Maybe not quite top class, but I really do like her.
Okay, we won't go through every single one in detail of the rest, but are there any others that really stand out to you?
Not too much, no. I think Darnation is interesting. She certainly didn't too much wrong last year. She kind of needs the mud flying, doesn't she? So I suspect, with the likelihood of her being good or quicker, that she'll maybe go France or alternative targets. But in terms of the rest, I think we've kind of covered everything. If we haven't mentioned it so far, it'll be a fair shock.
Yeah, it would be. I hope there's a good run in Lunar Eclipse. David Simcock just had the one run so far in the weather.
Yes.
I don't think he'd be tilting at Wimbledon with this one at the same time. She'll need to show a huge amount of significant improvement to get involved.
Yeah, I think she's got a couple of alternative engagements,
yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't run
goes
anyway. It'd be the sensible thing to do, I think, with her. Maybe just taking a bit easier and, again, maybe one for Royal Ascot.
Yeah, could easily be. Okay, Jack, your 1, 2, 3.
My 1, 2, 3, Ramatuelle for me, Fallen Angel in second, and I'll go with Cinderella's Dream for third. But yeah, I'd be surprised if the winner isn't Ramatuelle, Fallen Angel. I think they're standouts above the rest.
Okay, yeah, pretty confident stuff about those two. I'm going to actually go out a little bit of a limb here, and I'm going to go with Cinderella's Dream as the winner.
Okay.
Just because I've been... what she did last time was just so ridiculous. It was just an absurd performance, and I think she could be a star in the making. Nicol Barcelona... He knows what it takes to win a classic. Remember in Montpourmois, saluting the crowd? It was a little bit too early.
Well,
but
the opening credits of our show,
indeed.
you've got them,
So I'm hoping that she can improve again, and we don't know how good she is. She could easily be the type to spring and turn up. She's a nice price too, around about 20 to 1. I'm going to have Fallen Angel back in second. I think she's as solid as they come, and I love the way she hit the line in the Moyglare stud last season. And in third, I'm going to have a little fancy on Porta Fortuna in the hope that she can get home over the distance, and in the hope too that it's quick ground, because if it is, I think she's got a standout chance of getting a place. So a couple of big prices in there in the 1, 2, 3.
Okay, interesting. No, neither of us have put a Lange. As I say, for me, I see her more as a staying filly. Certainly be on the Oak shortlist, but
yeah, I'd be a little bit concerned about speed for her. I think she's might be just caught out in that regard.
The pace makeup, again, we don't have the stalls in the draw. She was better. We mentioned she blew out. They kind of did change tactics in terms of holding her up, and I just worry about that for her here. You've got a few that can definitely go up with the pace. What is actually going to make them run here? I was struggling to kind of pick out one. Well, exactly.
There are a lot of hold-up horses.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think this will be run as quick as the 2000 version. There's a lot of horses that could go on that, and I think this certainly could be a bit more tactical. Again, it'd be great to know kind of where the stalls are and have a bit more of an idea in that respect. But I'm not sure it'll work out for her. But again, I'm sure the Ballymore boys have better tactical minds than we are. It's their only golden bullet in this race. So,
yeah, they want to be up there, won't they? I think Fallen Angel will be bang there as well.
Yeah, to be fair, I think maybe they'll just run her off the pace. They won't take her right back, as they kind of had done sort of last season.
And the only other one I can see potentially making the running, or at least up there, is Star Style, because she made the running on her debut. I know possibly, it was a maiden, but at the same time, it worked. They might try it again.
Fallen Angel is the type of filly I think you can kind of just put her anywhere in the race. Again, Danny Tubbo, excellent chance to get his first Classic winner. Maybe sitting third or fourth. She can kind of go anywhere. She's so versatile, isn't she? And that's what I really like about her. So, just ram at 12 for me.
Right, both guineas done and dusted. Time to talk about the rest of the weekend and our best bets for the undercards, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. I am going to first go for the Palace House, the sprint, and put up Mitt Bahi here, who has since moved from Roger Varian to Charlie Hills and has had one start for the trainer, and it was a very encouraging one too. He finished fourth on his seasonal debut. That was a really nice performance behind Washington Heights. His problem in the past, plenty of times, has been he's too keen and he just fails to settle, but he does finish with a rattle. He's very versatile over 5 and 6. He was a little bit keen last time, but I'm going to put that down to his seasonal debut. I think Charlie Hills is going to be able to settle him a little bit better than Roger Varian could. Perhaps that change of scenery is going to help him. And I thought, given the fact that often in the past he has come on for his first run, I thought the fact that he was only beaten 2 lengths at Newmarket last time was a very encouraging effort, and I expect him to feel the benefit of that. Unlike plenty of these, he has had that run, and I'm hoping that it's going to prove absolutely worthy. And of course, Jamie Spencer on board, he'll be holding him up, there's no doubt about that, but he has got a wicked turn of foot, if seen to his best. And he also goes very well on quick ground. I know that he won on soft at Chester at the back end of last year, but he's equally, if not better, on fast conditions. So hopefully the ground will stay quick and Mitt Bahi can come home with a right rattle in that Palace House. So that'll be the pick in the 255 on Saturday. Going to move on to Sunday, and my other selection on the weekend is in the Dahlia Stakes. I think Running Lion is a very beatable favourite in this.
Yeah, I'd agree.
She's too short a price. I think she's out to 2-1 now, but she has been 7-4 in the week. And the one that appeals to me is Stay Alert, who is dropping back from Group 1 class. Most of her runs last season came at the top level. She's starting off in Group 2 company now. But what I like most about this is the fact that she's dropping back in trip 2. And I can absolutely see her just trying to make all, and I think she'll be really hard to catch. She's got that stamina proven. She's run very well fresh in the past. So for me, Stay Alert is very much the one to beat in that. Bringing that top-class form to the table against some fillies who are yet to prove themselves at the top level. Running Lion actually being one of them. Stay Alert has that form against the Group 1 fillies. And as I say, hopefully she can just bounce out in front and they won't catch her over that short of the trip. So those are my 2 selections for the weekend, apart from obviously the guineas. OK, Jack, let's hear from you then on yours.
Yeah, so on Saturday at Newmarket in the 220, it's great to see Torito back. We're seeing him here win at Epsom last season. And what a performance this was. I mean, this is real top class form. He's beaten Silver Sword in second and Balance Play in third. Those sorts have both rated over 100 now in this race. Torito's given over a stone to both. I mean, what a performance that was. He's then went on to Royal Ascot. He didn't get the clearest of runs, and that's the last we've seen of him. Possibly he picked up an injury in the race. I'm not sure. I'm not overly in love with his price here, 6-1. I'd love to get a bit high, but I guess it's probably a fair enough price on what essentially for me is a group horse in the handicap here. Sure, connections may leave him a little bit short. Obviously, it's first run of the season. But when you've had such time off, I think he'll be pretty much primed and ready to go. He has been gelded, and yeah, I just really like him. I think he's a real classy horse. Getting in off a handicap here, you've got all the old favourites in here. But I mean, this is a real progressive horse, and I think 105 is certainly not at the ceiling of his ability, and you're getting a general 6-1.
There was a lot of chat about him last year, wasn't there, as well as being a progressive handicapper?
It was a real shame that kind of we didn't see him after Royal, because I'm absolutely certain we would have seen him progress into group races. I really do like him. I think 6-1. I would just be a win only. I think he's a type of horse, maybe a bomb out. So obviously after so long off, but I think just win only for me at that price.
I think we should also comment. It's quite a big weekend for Kieran Schumacher, isn't it? For
it
the
is,
Jonathan Thady Gosden team. Yeah. You know, his first season really is their #1 jockey, and he's going to have to prove himself in these big races.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you're only going to get to prove yourself by getting these chances, so we'll have to see from here. He's obviously going to get great ammunition riding the Gosden horses. So,
but I think he's very, very good.
Yeah.
So I hope he does, prove himself. I'm sure he will.
Absolutely, he will. Yeah.
Okay, Jack. That's Torito in the 220 then.
Yes.
Next up.
So this is a little bit biased, but on Sunday we've got Wise Eagle, as I mentioned last week in the Devil's Dyke handicap. So it's been renamed to the sponsors, the William Hill handicap. It's his first start since, completely bombing out Royal Ascot in the Gold Cup. He was injured on the back of that run. He was penciled in to run at Musselburgh. He had a little setback the week before, as it was anyway. The race was abandoned. He worked very nicely at Wetherby on Sunday. It wasn't heavy ground, but Adam's very happy with him. Obviously, it's a big ask coming here, running against the likes of classic place horses in New London. But I just think of the price at 20-1. I'm really quite surprised at that. I mean, this is a horse. I know Adam's obviously on a small trainer, but put any kind of established trainer or Newmarket trainer and name next to that horse that's run in a Gold Cup, had run and beaten Trushan when running behind Coltrane. I mean, that form's rock solid. Adam's very happy with the horse. We actually think he runs best fresh. And drying ground's going to be in his favour. I just think there is a few bits of 20-1 knocking about. He's generally 14s. I think that's a really good each way price. As I mentioned, I was wondering whether to go on Saturday to Newmarket, but obviously I'm definitely going on Sunday as well. And vibes are good. He had a smooth prep since kind of the Musselburgh blip as it was. It didn't matter. And look, 1 mile 6. Adam thinks that's his best trip. He's very versatile, to be fair. He can go up to probably 2.5 if you really wanted him to be. I guess the only kind of worry would be he might be a bit fresh first time up after so long, but Danny knows him better than anyone. Genuinely, obviously Ryan Moore's the best. I wouldn't want any other jockey. Danny knows him so well, and obviously he's got some live chances in the Guineas and that. So hopefully this will be a nice warm-up before the filly, whose name escapes.
Oh, Fallen Angel.
Fallen Angel, of course, yeah.
In terms of ground, what would be the ideal for him then?
Well, I just think good ground, to be fair. I always thought, because he's such a nice moving horse and really points his toe, that he wanted good to firm ground. But he came back so jarred up after Royal Ascot. I mean, it was near enough firm ground there. It was about 35 degrees. So, just not extremes of the ground. Good to firm would be fine. Do you know what I mean? You can make a print in it, but just absolutely ideal conditions would be good.
I love how strong a traveller he is. I remember I know he got jarred up at Royal Ascot, but coming around the home turn, he was travelling as well as anything. Well,
that cigar race, Danny actually got off, and the first thing he said is, I went too soon. And I mean, you're running against the likes of Coltrane, Group 2 winner at the E-Ball meeting, and Trushan. I know he kind of had a blip at the early part of last season, but these are proper stayers. And as I say, that form, I wouldn't worry about the gap in between now. He's going well, so fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, I wish you all the best. Obviously, Adam being Jack's brother, it'd be a lovely family affair to have.
It will, yeah. He's coming down on Saturday. The horse is going to travel down Saturday, stay overnight. He's a fine traveller doing that. So, as I say, there's not too many negatives at this point, and fingers crossed.
Yeah, all of us here at Flat Out have got our fingers crossed for Wise Eagle at the weekend.
Thank you.
What about anything else, Jack, then, for the 3 days?
Yeah, so Torito and Wise Eagle, my only other bet away from Newmarket is at Goodwood on Saturday. That is Fire Angelica. Our Racing TV colleague Andrew Blair White gave me a good update on her. She was a horse in my track, and when he mentioned this horse, he'd got a good update from Richard Hughes. It's interesting though that she's online to be a Sandringham filly. I think the plan is to get a run into her beforehand, and she's going to go for the first race at Goodwood on Saturday. It's quite hard to believe actually she's been given a mark of 82, because the way she won at the back end of last year, she was so impressive on the all-weather. She's transferred that form over to the turf now. That's not a worry. In the circumstances, she did so well to win, and I think 82 severely underestimates her form. There's some really good horses in behind her. I think James's Delight was in 5th that day. So vibes are good for her. In terms of being a Sandringham filly, she probably will need to come up a few pounds. So this is a nice starting point. Maybe she'll run again sometime in May, but I think quite possibly.
I think it's a shrewd pick, because as you said, she will need to win at least once to get into the championship.
She will, yes. So,
and she probably will be prime.
I think it'll be job done in terms of this, and if she is declared, obviously, as I say, we're talking Tuesday evening, she'd be a strong fancy. But in terms of everything of the three, Torito, I'm really excited about. I think he's a really, really exciting horse, and it's great to have him back.
Okay, good stuff. That pretty much ends things almost. But anything else to mention for you, Jack?
Yeah, just in terms of, we opened with the horses to follow. I've got 2 running on Friday. Annoyingly, Brave Call, who I think is a possible London Gold Cup horse. They're going to run him in a Lister race off mark of 85. It's not been confirmed yet, obviously provisionals, but Holly Doyle is provisionally jocked up, so that would be frustrating to see her run there and potentially below what I think is a leading mark of 85. And then English Oak, my horse that is topping the working shortlist at the moment, he's entered Newmarket over 7 furlongs, which is interesting enough. Speaking of George Baker, he kind of thought at the time that he might be a horse for the 6 furlong Group 2 at York. So grand plans for him, maybe on the owner's side, but it's really fascinating that they've put him in over 7 furlongs there. So he'd be interesting for me. He was tried over 7 and 8 last year, and then he dropped him right back to 6. I think 6 is what he wants. So yeah, I'd probably wouldn't be a betting proposition this time, but certainly one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, strong cases made all round. Okay, finally, I think, best bet of the weekend, perhaps? I'll go first, shall I? Obviously, I really hope Ghostwriter runs a massive race in the Guineas, considering he's my horse to follow for the season. But the best bet of the weekend for me is going to be Stay Alert in the Dahlia, bringing that Group 1 class to the table, and she's got the excess stamina against some of these, and I think she'll just blast out Nicol, and she'll be very hard to catch. So she's my best bet of the weekend.
Very good. In terms of the Guineas, obviously betting proposition is not what City of Troy is, but Ramatuelle, I think she's very solid each way. If you can get double figures, and as I mentioned, Torito win as well. He'd probably be the one for me.
Lovely stuff. Hope you've all enjoyed watching this week's episode of Flat Out, a feast of racing ahead of us.
Good to have you back.
That's great to be back. I had a Newmarket and Goodwood over the course of 3 days, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Good luck to you all. If you haven't liked or subscribed to us, please do. It does help us out. But until next time, it's goodbye.